So here we've got your typical little MX125 Razor, and it's got the standard hand controller on it, on off switch, all your bits and pieces. And anyway, I've upgraded this one here first, and now we've got a 12 volt 12 amp hour battery, and we've put on a kill switch, variable speed, and now we're able to do this for the little fellas and girls. Just go nice and slow, and we can slowly pick the speed up. And if you just hang on, I'll show you how to convert that over to that. So my suggestion is just strip it down first thing. Get all these controllers off. You just got a little Allen key in there that holds that on. With the hand grips, I try to save most stuff I can for spare parts. Slide a screwdriver up in behind it. Make sure you don't put it through your hand. You'll end up with a pile of stuff like that, all left over. Just take it all out. The only things you'll have trouble with are pulling out the switch, because it's held in with hot glue and tons of it. But if you take your time and don't put the screwdriver through your hand, you can manage to pull it out without breaking any of the plastic. So that would probably be step 2, is just strip it all back and see what else needs tightening or maintenance. Did a bit of maintenance on the chain, put some lube on it, fixed up these things, amazing stuff called oil, that fixed that up. So that's about it at this point. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these controllers that I've bench tested with the motor, as well as a really great Fandangle little machine my brother-in-law got me. Test voltage to watts to ampage and all the rest of it. So this one here, this one checked out okay, had all the correct wires, even had the brake wire in it. Only thing is, when I do my upgrade, I only want to do the upgrade once, and at the moment I'm just putting in a 12 volt higher ampage battery so it lasts longer, but I've actually got a 18 volt battery that I'm going to swap over to. This one here did not like the 18 volts and was starting to run a little bit erratic. So great for the 12 volts and great because you've got the right amount of wires, but they're all bullet head cables, so it means you've got to change all the cables. Then went up and got one of these, and as you can see, there's a majority of wire, heap of wires there. They are all named. It was a little bit too large to fit in, plus I was a bit concerned about having so many leftover wires just running bare that I'd have to block them all off so no dirt or shit got in there. And then I came to this one when it arrived, and it works really well with the 12 volt and works perfectly with the 18 volt, and that's not only doing a bench test on with the motor, but that's also running it through the big machine that Chuckle's got me. So that's those. So I'll just hold that steady. That's the one you need to get if you're doing 12 volts or you want to go up to an 18 volt lithium. And there's only 3 cables on there, which means you don't have the so-called safety switch on the brake handle. That's why I have compensated for that, because safety first, and might as well learn to ride a motorbike properly. That goes right beside your throttle. So there's a cut-off switch there, and I'm not too keen on the Razor safety switch because it's a combination of touch the brake, the motor cuts out, then you've got to turn the throttle off and then turn it back on, and the throttle only goes full on and full off. So anyway, I'm getting the kids to learn how to ride a proper bike. So that's those. Next thing I came across was to find a good controller. It's got 3 wires on it. These ones here, I'll try and put it in a description, and they work tremendously on the 24 through to 36 volt. 12 volt just seemed a little bit sluggish, so I waited until these turned up and they work perfect. I think they cost about 11 bucks. Really tough sort of plastic. Kids drop it over on its side, they're not going to break things too easily. Got your 3 cables, works perfect with the 12 volt or the 18 volt. I wouldn't be going up to this. We see guys put 24 volt motors in them and different types of batteries in them. The kids have got speed wobbles. This here, it's for the little peg. I'm not keen about this metal peg that I can imagine that poking some kid in the eye when he goes A over. So I had to cut mine a couple of times to get the right length so it balanced properly. But it's just a big rubber plug. You can pick them up at Bunnings. They're like 50 cents. Also, because I'm using a little bit more voltage, putting in inline fuses. So there's an inline fuse that'll go on the battery to the controller, and then there's another inline fuse that goes from the charging port back to the battery. So a little bit of safety there. These are the pieces that I'm using. So the charging port will consist of one of those. It's a little plug I made up. I could just imagine a kid sticking a screwdriver down there. So just made a little plug up just to fit in there that I can just tie off on the handlebars. A lot heavier gauge wire. It'll handle the 12 volt and the 18 volt without a problem. That's the connector I'm using for the battery charger. The battery charger that Razor supply you with, I've tested that out too. Look, it's a great little 12 volt charger. I'll probably keep it for the little ride on toys. Which supposedly pushes out 1 amp. It would take forever to charge up a 12 amp hour battery or a 4 amp hour battery. So I've pinged that off, and I'll be using something that pumps out a little bit more. That's a 7-stage charger, and it's got the right plug on the end of it, so I can use it on the little Razor bikes. I'm just running through all these parts so you get a bit of an idea the lengths I've gone to. The other thing is that with the more amperage going through, I'm using some of this twin core cable, and it's rubber sheathed. That'll do up to 15 amps, so they'll quite easily handle the 12 amp hour or 9 amp hour battery that you might want to put in. Or although the lithium battery is 18 volts, it's only 4 amp hours. And I only like to do upgrades once. So that's my 18 volt lithium battery. Once the kids start telling me, I've got 5 grandkids, so a lot of age groups in there. Once they start telling me, hey Pop, it's slow, this will take your 8 km/h Razor up to around about 14-15 kilometers an hour. And just to make it easier, I bought, and make sure I don't stuff things up because it is a lithium battery, I actually bought their proper charger, and I'm going to convert that over, put 2 more pins in there, and that way you can just click that on the top of your battery, have it fully mounted, and use the same charge port. So the whole idea is let the kids have a bit of fun on it while they're growing up with the 12 volt, sitting around about 8 kilometers an hour, but for a lot longer. But once they get a little bit older and they want a bit more speed and they're able to ride, this one will just pick up the speed a little bit more. So that's what I've gone through, all of that there on the workbench, to try and work out how to do an upgrade that I don't have to pull it all apart and do another upgrade when it needs a new battery. Also with the connectors, most of the motorbikes and things I use, that's my phone ringing in the background. My granddaughter put that phone ringer on there. I got frozen on my phone. Yeah, I use some of these connectors. This thing's not going to be really going in the water. It's not a motorbike with a motor that can do a creek crossing. So I just make sure that I use proper connectors. These ones are okay, but dead set, buy yourself a kit and they work a lot better. So that's it, and I'll start putting it back together. Okay, so yeah, I just noticed something I said in the last video wasn't quite right, lead you astray. That's a 9-stage. It'll do 12 and 6-volt batteries, and it will pump out a maximum of 2.5 amps. So your little Razor charger that takes, I don't know, like 8 hours to charge up, that'll charge up my 12 amp battery in about 4 hours. So it's not too bad. And once I go over to lithium, that drops down to about 2-hour quick charge. But at the moment, we're going to keep the speed down for the little ones. That is my 7-stage charger. They're bloody awesome. I took a punt and bought it. It'll do the 12 and 24. My granddaughters all like the scooters. They're all 24 volt. It'll do lithium, lead, lipo, and it also has a repair mode, which is great. I have tried it on a couple of batteries, old scooters I've been given, and I just pop off the top caps. You can find the videos on YouTube, and I just use the demineralized battery water to top them up. I don't put any other stuff in there. If it's going to make it, it's going to make it. That's the battery that came out of this little guy here. Ran it through the repair mode. It's been sitting on the bench now for 3 days. I just tried it and it's still holding over 12 volts. So that's the little battery that comes with it. This is the bigger guy I'm putting in it. This is actually a 9 amp hour one. I'll put the link on the description when I finish the video. But as you can see, if you turn it around, just fits in where I need it to go. And I just use some double-sided rubber tape so it doesn't get too much vibration. And once everything's all finished and everything's locked into place, then I just use a hot glue gun and I just tack everything into place so it doesn't wobble out. So yeah, sorry about that in the last video, but that is a 9-stage charger, and that is the one you get for 7-stage, but basically does every battery, and it does from your 12 through to your 24 volt, as well as a repair mode, and the repair mode does actually work. Not all the time. Okay, so now we're getting down to some more of the annoying things, and I worked out also to put a light over the top of the bike so you can see what's going on. Some of the video's a bit dark. Unfortunately, when you start buying all these parts, you find that things just don't start fitting together because they're not really meant for one another. So no one's organising the male to female connectors, and you start getting a bit annoyed and you think, oh well, I'll just stick a bit of wire down in there and glue them together or something. Don't do that. You're looking for trouble. You can buy these great little things off of eBay. They're only a couple of bucks. You can just stick that down inside the hole there, give it a little bit of a push, and you can just, back of your hand, pull the wire. There we go. Pull that back out, and then your wire comes out. So then of course you find that that's the wrong connector. You've got to change it over to that connector. So take your time, do it properly, do it once, put the proper connector on that'll fit with that, and yep, so yep, these off of eBay, a couple of bucks, and well and truly worth it. Connectors, all I can suggest is also same thing on eBay. I just get these from China, they're so friggin' cheap. So I've got the big dual ones for the power. I've got these other dual ones, so it's the male and the female. I've split them up. I've got two other types I'm waiting on. I don't need them at the moment, so I'm not freaking out. I just need power at the moment. And yeah, so these are some of the little problems that you'll come across. These ones here from memory are fine, you won't have to change them, but the one on the throttle to the controller, you will have to change it. As I said, if you want, you can cut the wires off, make them permanent, but if this thing ever goes on you, it means that you got to cut everything apart. Everything's going to end up shorter. More joins you make, the more problems you have, especially with, as you know, with electricity. Okay, as I've said before, a lot of this type of stuff I'm not really going too much into depth with, like how to use a set of these crimpers, because you can look that up on YouTube yourself. So I'm just mainly sticking to the bare bones. Because I wait for a lot of parts come through from eBay and that, I don't get out too much to pick up all this crap. I've just found it safer, like that's the proper connector I need. I've actually marked it up so that when I put it together I don't have to pull it apart again, because I found out I put the wires around the wrong way. So I've marked the three colours up where they've got to go. I don't like to mix, so inside this, inside here, we've got just the stains, simple sort of like zinc. These ones come with brass, so I'm just sticking with the same material. I don't know whether it makes much difference. I know about electrolysis on boats and things with different sorts of metals, so in there they're not copper, so I'm using the same sort of connector. So basically you get a little bit brutal now. You just got to get rid of these ones because these are wrong, and just snip them off carefully, and then grab your, I've got these nice little cheapo ones here. They still work on fine wires, not too great on bigger wires. Just give it a quick little crimp. These are only like $5, so friggin' awesome. And then you're all ready to put that on there. Use your crimping tool. As I said, you can have a look on eBay how to use one of those, and I won't bore you with basics. So I'll get back to you when I've got that all together and it's all sitting up and ready to start bolting in. Thanks. Okay, so we've got the wires together. I suggest probably at this point you start mounting things in the right place. I don't like to tighten things up until it's all finished, so everything's sitting there, the wires are all feeding down where they're supposed to. That's for the kill switch, that's for your throttle. It's still marked up. I've made sure all my colours are all sitting around the right way. Now all we're going to do is just push this into place. So we just make sure it's the right way around. And there we go. We've got our throttle all set up. Sorry about that. Can't move the camera in two hands at one time. So there's the throttle all set up in place, all wired up into the controller box. I use just some of this automotive tape, double-sided, just to sort of put things in place so they don't fall out while you're trying to muck around and pull wires around. So instead of shit always falling off, it tends to hold it in place just enough until you get it all done. And then I just use a hot glue gun on either side, and that pretty well just tacks it off. They're not doing 100 kilometers an hour down the road. So that's pretty well it there. That's where your controller goes, up in the top. I'll just zoom out a little bit. that's where your controller just fits in there beautifully once it focuses. Sorry about that. That's your old battery sitting in there. I just tend to use that one while I'm doing the initial wire up, so I don't stuff up and short out my good one. So I'll just use that. That'll just sit in place, and then last thing will be the battery will go into place. But that's pretty well it now. And I'll start working on the wiring harness, including fuses, going power into the control box and power coming out of control box, and also how to hook up your kill switch on the right side of the control box so you don't cause any interference. And yeah, it's pretty well just about there already. Okay, so what we've got here now, I'll just zoom back out a little bit. It's hard to hold things and the camera at the same time. You should be able to see everything there. So look, I just put everything in place. I don't have it all bolted in and rock solid in case I've got to change something, or maybe that controller doesn't work or whatever. So I just have everything just sitting in there loose. There's our throttle all connected up to the control box. We've got our wires coming down for our kill switch. The kill switch, I'll show you which side to actually put that on, so you don't create any load on the circuit. And pretty well that's your power wire, but we'll get into that later. The only other thing I'd say is probably get yourself some of that. It's double-sided automotive tape. It just helps the whole things in place while you're mucking around with them, rather than every time you're pushing wires or pulling things, it's always falling out and shit's going everywhere and you're short out on the battery. So yeah, it's some little double-sided tape. I finish off everything at the end of the day when everything's locked in place, and I make sure all the plastic fits back on. Then I just go around with the hot glue gun, and I just do a hot glue gun on either side. Nothing's going to fall in, fall out. So at the end of the day, that's all good. The only other thing I do is I use the old battery while I'm still wiring it all up. I don't want to create a short on my brand new bloody battery, so I just use the old one. That's charged up, it's holding 12 volts. So that's pretty well lit at this point. And then I'll explain to you power in, power out, and also where to connect that kill switch in. Thanks. Okay, I thought I'd just show you one more thing. We're sort of pretty well getting there. Just do a little bit of a bench test. I'll just push that up a minute. So I'll just put the, as I said, I only use the old battery, muck around with. There's your cabling there, positive, negative. This one here actually connects up the right way around, so you've got a yellow to blue and a blue to brown, but it's actually the right way around. And if we grab this, so a bit slow, speed it up, and we've done our first bench test, so we know the throttle's working, we know the controller box is working, and that's about it for today. So I'm just going to muck around and get all the stuff ready for the next bit. Thanks. Okay, I just wanted to show you quickly the difference between putting in an 18 volt lithium battery to the normal standard 12 volt battery. So this is only just the bench test, nothing else has all been hooked up, it's just carry over from the throttle test. So there's the variable speed, you can do that, so that's flat chat. Okay, just give us 2 seconds, maybe 3. Let's take that off of there. Hook these up to the lithium battery and try that out. So there you go. As you can see and hear, it has got a bit more grunt. I would not go over 18 volts. or else you're going to have to end up putting heat shield around here. It really works sweet on 18 volt, but as I said, my grandkids' ages go from 2-year-old up to 12-year-old, so I've got to have something that the little ones can ride. The older ones like the scooters, and once the little ones start saying pop, it's getting a bit slow, well, I think this will definitely give it another lease of life. Okay, I just thought I'd do this quick little job. This is my mate's little 3-year-old's going to be riding this. I really don't like the idea of getting poked in the head with a metal piece of kickstand. So it's about 6.5, 7 mil from where the bottom of the kickstand sits. Allow 1 mil for the length of the blade. Probably you're best off. That's what I got. They're just 10 mil, and I think they were like $2 for a whole packet. They're a fairly tough rubber. They're going to steel legs on a chair, so they work out all right. And as you might be able to see, I'll just pull it back a bit. It actually sits very well, better than the other ones. The other ones you only had to touch them and they'd fall over. So when my mate's little bloke takes it inside the house because it's raining outside, his mum can't get up him. It's got a nice little rubber stop on the bottom of it, and I'd rather get hit in the head with that than that bloody piece of steel there. Alright, well, I'm not doing too much today. Going to have a bit of a lay day. Look, I've just marked that up for you so you know that the yellow is positive, the blue is negative, and that runs back into your blue on your motor and your brown, so you can see that nice and easy. I've swapped the battery over to a 12 amp battery. It arrived yesterday, which is great. Up in here I've just got that sitting up like that, so that this stuff here can get in there. It's a non-conductive silicon. There's the stuff there, and basically I just drip it in through the top. They give you the little bits for it, and I just drip a little bit in through the top, and it just stops dirt and grime getting in with your wires and making bad connections. It'll still all pull apart, which is great. So the only other thing I've done today is just preparing all these things to go back on. That's off the original battery. Yes, I know the negative is shorter than the positive, but that's why I've got these other cables here, so I can make them longer. It's just how the battery's set up on the old Razor, and then I'll show you how to start putting these inline fuses in. I put one coming off the battery into the control unit, so that if there's a fault in there, it'll cut the battery out and you won't end up with a fire, which is always good. And the other one goes from the charger back down to the battery in case there's a fault when that goes off, or as I'll explain later, I do put a plug in the top, and if the little kid comes along and pulls it out, sticks a screwdriver in there, at least I'll just blow the fuse rather than burn your bloody battery out. I think I showed you the other day I was cutting cables, and I was just using that on the really fine ones. Today, because I'm cutting a lot thicker cable, I'm using the big boys, a little bit stronger, do a lot better job. And that's about it. I did get time this morning before I conked out. I've put the all the hand grips and everything on, which is always handy. I just use a little bit of washing up detergent, mix it up fairly thick, rub it between your fingers, make sure it's got a little bit of slip in there. I just spray a little bit down the plastic hand grip, or I should say rubber. Keep on saying plastic, it's rubber. and I've also fitted up over on the other side. I've got the spin that around a little bit, might be alright. I've got the cut-off switch, and the controller sitting in place. So that's about it for today, and hopefully I'll get back and do a little bit more tomorrow. Just see how we go. Okay, I'm just going to go through these other bits and pieces because we're getting up to a point where we're needing to hook the wires in. So grab yourself one of these. These will do up to 15 amps. I put on a C for it because that's going to be on the charger, and I'm just trying them out on a 3 amp fuse, which is the little purple one. The main power switch, so that we don't burn out the controller or anything. I'm starting off on a 7.5. So the little 7.5 is that brownish looking one. If I have any problems, because I haven't tested it under any great load, I can always go up to a 10, but if you're going past a 10, if something's gone wrong somewhere along the line, you're going to need a couple of these. These are great, so you can plug that into your battery and then have another power lead coming out of there. So grab yourself a couple of them. These are actually blue, but I just put a bit of black Nico on them so I know what I'm doing. You'll need a few of these, so just your spade, male to female to male connectors. Make sure you get the ones with got the little silicon cups on them so you don't get wires crossing over. With the switches, this is my demo one, so I've got it marked C for controller, B is the battery, that's the positive coming in, and L, that's for the LED, and it's also the negative earth. That can be easily seen as which is which, because these first two are silver and the last one is a brass one. So that's why you need these little connectors to come in. These truly are the best switches I've found for the scooters and everything. They're waterproof, they've got a little cap on them, nice bright light. They fit exactly back in the old holes. It's exactly the same size as the original ones. There's a brand new one there, but to make them slightly waterproof you've got to put a cap over the top, and it's too much mucking around for an old fart. You can get these other switches. You're going to get water down inside them, you're going to end up with problems. And of course with the good old toggle switch, they've got them all as brass fittings, but at least they do mark them. But that will get broken off for sure. And the last thing, grab yourself a set of those, because when you're putting those connectors together, that just doesn't come apart. So we're just about there in the way that we've got most of, swing my mighty chair around, we've got most of the things all together. As I said, I've marked that one up for you. So you're going to have a positive coming out of here, going through a fuse cable. It's going to go up into the switch and then come back into this positive that goes into the controller. Where you need one of these little double up switch connectors is that we'll have the earth going straight into the controller, and we need the earth to also go up into the toggle switch to make it work. So I'll get into that when I'll show you a little bit more detail when we get to that point. And that's about it for today. I've got the packers in here, so the batteries, I've just got a bit of pressure on there so the packers you know, squish down into place. I've used the double-sided tape so everything's sort of sitting in place, and as I said, once it's all finished, then I get the old hot glue gun out. I put a couple of dobs here and there, and that pretty well fixes everything in place. And that's about it for today. Okay, just one other thing I just mentioned, I forgot in that last little bit. You get these in all different colours, which are bloody awesome, and I'm always going on about eBay. quite a few years back. Brother-in-law and I tried out Alibaba. We used to call them Alibaba and the 40 Thieves because nothing was getting delivered, or if it wasn't what you ordered. But I must say, now, 7-8 years further on, they've gotten really good. You do have a fair bit of time here in Australia to wait for things to turn up. The selection and the quality of what they have now has greatly improved, and I must say that this one just turned up yesterday from good old Ellie. It's one of these controllers, really great for the price. Yeah, you can buy them here in Australia too, but throw an extra $10 or $15 on top of it. It's exactly the same one because I've bought them from Australia and I've bought them from Alibaba, and apart from cutting it in half, it truly appears to be the same thing, same item. So yeah, I just thought I'd clear that up. At the moment, my mate's young bloke, he's not going with the red switch, he's going to go with the blue switch, so that's his choice, and we'll keep the little fella happy. Okay, so not doing too much today, and having a bit of an easy one, but anyway, just thought I'd go through. As I said, grab yourself some of those. You will need these ones here, especially with that pin in the center, so that you can push these type of clips together. And don't worry, I'll make stuff ups too. I have to cut that one off and start again, because I forgot to put a bit of heat shield on it, heat sink on it, so make it a little bit safer. But anyway, we'll just run through a few of these things that you're going to need. First thing, before you start connecting all these cables up, make sure you pull the fuse out first. So if you do happen to short it out, you can't make a circuit. That's the one from a battery, it's also from a power. Put a normal spade connector on there with a protection on there. That's the other end that goes on the battery, so that'll go into the battery. This one here, that's for your charge port, so you can charge your battery up. And unfortunately, because you use these type of connectors, I just have to use some heat shield, so I can make some form of protection up for the possibility of it shorting out. So you need to make one of them up first. You need your double connector on one end, leave a nice long length of cable so you can go up to the controller. This fuse here, once the seat's on, you can get at the fuse through the big hole in the side. So that's my advice, rather than have to pull all the thing apart again just to get at the fuse. You can get it from up here. You just need a single connector, female at the top. The other one you need to make up, so this one you need to put two of them on it. Alright, so one goes into the battery, that will be for the other side of your charge port for your charger. This one goes into the negative on your controller, and then you have another cable that comes out and goes up into your switch. So you need to make one of those up, about that long. That's all you need. Don't need a fuse on it. And you also need to make yourself up just another short one, so that you can go from this plug up into your controller, so that you can get into your switch. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt, but anyway, that's how it has to be. Hopefully you can see that. Those switches fit perfect straight in the old holes. So the first one is for the control unit. So that's your control unit. Next one is battery. So that's the battery coming in. That one there goes to the positive of the control unit. And the L, that's the LED light, but it's also the negative. So that's the one where you've got to loop your negative back up into this switch, or else it'll work but it won't light up. so we don't want to upset the little bloke. And if you're wondering what it sort of takes to sort of do all this type of stuff, that's just a small amount of what I've collected, because there's so many different connections and so many different scenarios. It tends to send you a little bit haywire, so pick up what you can when you can. When I start connecting the wires up, I'll do another video and I'll do it slowly so you can see where each wire goes to. I use that stuff that's basically on the car. You use it on your spark plugs to give a nice seal around the spark plug end, but I also put a little tiny bit on the pins before I push it together, and it just helps when you pull them apart again, and it helps with a little bit with the corrosion. So that's about it for today. I'm going to give it a bit of a miss. Okay, just one other thing quickly. I've just had a muck around. That's the old glue gun. Sorry, that's the old glue gun I use. They're not bad. That's your normal length of your glue stick. Found these on Alibaba the other day. They arrived. I think that'll serve me better for the amount of hot glue gun things I do and put into place. But yeah, get yourself a decent half quality bloody glue gun. I know you can buy a lot better than that, but for the couple of little jobs I do, I find this one's quite alright. And just to explain, so there's our there's the top of our cowling. I've now put the charge port in, and where is it? It's on here on the bench somewhere. So that's the one that'll be going into there like that, and on the far end of this charge port that I've made up, I use one of those, and I can hook it straight into my battery charger. And I suppose if you haven't got a whopping great 30 amp battery charger, you'll be fine. I've just got one for my motorbikes and things, so I think it's about 2.5 amps, which is fine. I just don't want to push on that too much because it's still cooling down, but the switch is all in now. The charge port's on, it's holding. I do use a fair bit of hot glue to put it in. I don't like pulling things apart too much, so that's it. I just thought I'd just add in that last little bit, and of course those two pieces there, they go down to your battery. That's why you've got a double terminal on your positive and negative of your battery, so you can plug those into it. Fine. Okay, so I'll just show you how easy it is. Stuff things up. I've got C, B and L. L is your earth and your also for your LED light. B's for battery. C's for the controller. I just started out, as I said, take the fuses out when you're hooking everything up. I just started out with a little 3 amp fuse. Pop, she went straight away. I thought, oh, okay, too low, so I put in a 5. It just popped it straight away again. So I thought, hey, I've done something wrong. And what I'd actually done is where the C for controller is and the L for the negative coming up, earth, I had them around the wrong way. So that's how easy it can be. But now, if I switch it on, we haven't popped any fuses, the LED's working, and off we go. We've got a motor. So that's what I mean when you're doing these types of things. Just play it safe, eh? I've got all the battery and everything all hooked up now. All the cables are all coming back up to where they're supposed to be. But yep, I wasn't paying much attention. That's why I get to a certain point in the day where I just go, nah, that's enough for me. And yep, I had the earth on the charger and the charging power cable, so every time I turned the power on, it blew the fuse. And that's the whole reason why you put fuses in, alright, to help out idiots like me. Okay, so we're up to this point now. Just lift that up a little bit higher. It's all wired up, so I'm quite happy about that. I'll just show you quickly what I've done. So turn the switch on. We've got power to that. We've got the kill switch turned off, and as you can see, we've got nothing happening. Turn it on, and off she goes. And if they get out of control or whatever, you've got to teach them that just hit that kill switch and everything stops, rather than relying on this other side here for this automatic braking system that they put in. Get the little guys used to riding a real bike. These are great starting bike. They've got everything on them. I've just tried to get it a little bit better in the way that you actually have a proper throttle on it, so the kids are used to it and they get used to using it. Kill switch, every motorcycle's got a kill switch on it there. They don't have these other bits. I'll just show you quickly inside before I close it all up. These are your best little friends, these zip ties. They've got the little button on the top of them, so you can release them rather than just keep on going through cutting everything and putting new ones on. And if you want to move some wires, you can get them on all different sorts of lengths. And if they're a little bit too fat, you can also get them in a smaller width, which is great. The other thing I use a lot of, it's just basically it's a Velcro tab on a roll. So you might be able to see up in here, I put some Velcro tab around the wires rather than put cable ties on them. That's the yellow one there. So I'll just spin the camera around and give you a bit more of a look inside before I close it all up. So there's all the wiring all sort of happening there. I'll just very carefully lift that up. Shouldn't short anything out. That's where we're going to go up inside, and I've shown you plenty of shots about what's happening. You've got your power cables happening. This one here, that is for your charge port, and you've got a separate charge port positive there, also with a fuse cable on it. For the charge port, I just use a 3 amp fuse. That's heaps. There's the little charge port one down there. It just popped out. I've got everything. I don't push everything together hard in case I want to change things around. So there's the charge port happening there. Just pull this fuse out so I don't short anything. And this one here, that's where I use the 7.5 amp. That's for your main power that goes in. So it's very difficult to actually show everyone every tiny little step. You've got to have basically some sort of knowledge of what you're doing. Hopefully this video helps you a little bit with what you need. And at the end of the day, these great little bikes are basically a starter. And all I've done in my capability is just make it a little bit more practical for when the little folk, your little girl or your young man upgrades themselves into a larger bike. They are actually starting to ride something and they know how to control something that they're going to move into, because I don't know of any MX bikes, trail bikes, whatever, that are petrol powered at this present time. that have auto cut-off switches and on-off throttle switches. Everything is variable, everything is usable. This is all electric. I can't see that doing a creek crossing. So yeah, look, just take your time with it. Don't worry about throwing in 500 watt motors and 24 or 36 volt batteries in it. The little bike was designed and made by Razor for a 12 volt system to do a certain speed. If you're exceeding that speed, making it go faster, you don't have shock absorbers, you don't have a swing arm on the rear. You've got other problems. I've seen them on YouTube where the kids build up into speed wobbles. The dad's got them going so fast they're actually doing speed wobbles going down the street, and as you know, it doesn't hurt until you actually hit the bitumen. So just take your time with it. All I've done here is basically given them a variable speed so they've got more control over the bike. I've changed the kill switch to what they're going to work up into as they get bigger and better bikes, and I've just made the battery rather than 15-20 minutes, they'll get a good 3/4 of an hour out of that. I know I did show you the 18 volt battery, but I'm a bit dubious. Once I sort of get to that sort of point, just get them a bigger bike that's actually built for that sort of speed. But that is a lot more usable. I'll give you another shot once I've got everything all tidied up. Make sure wires aren't rubbing together. Make sure that you've got all your little rubbers overlapping one another, rubber caps, so that you don't have things possibly shorting out. That's why you've got to run those fuse lines in there, and then just go around and just use your cable ties. And don't stretch and pull things too hard, or else you're just going to make problems for yourself later. Let the kids enjoy it. They'll have a ball. My eldest grandson, he's graduated up now to the 350, and he loves it. It's got that bit more speed, but he's got shockies on the front now, and it's made to sort of do that extra speed. So I'll give you a shot when it's all back together, and hopefully it's helped you or given you a little bit of inspiration about what you can do to make them just that little bit more usable. Okay, well, it's all done. Now, just pull back out a bit. I don't know what that's doing now. Anyway, it's all done. Case is back on. Just be careful when you pull your wires. There is a little check out there. Make sure when you pull your wires up through, you aren't pinching them against the frame. As I said, I leave the fuses up the top here. I just put a cable tie on them so I can grab them later, maybe even with a pair of long nose pliers. And yeah, I just push them in the back there, out of sight, out of mind. The kids don't play with them. Just put a little cable tie for the throttle connection, and a bit of good old automotive double tape in behind it. Pulled it all together. I've just got this one case to put back on, and I only seem to have 2 screws left, so I'm one short. So I'm going to have a little crawl around on the floor. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's not too in depth, but it gives you a little bit of vision as to what you can do. And as I said, I wouldn't be going too crazy turning them into a high-speed bike. They were never designed for that. They're a practice bike, a training bike. So now, and I've got the little plug in there so no one sticks a screwdriver in. And now you turn her on, and off she goes. And she'll go for a long time, because it's, instead of having a little 4.5 amp battery in there, it's got a 12 amp hour battery in there. It's no more powerful, it just lasts longer. And once the little kids start playing with it, yeah. Alright, hopefully I'll get a little bit of video when my mate takes it home and gets his young bloke on it. If I don't end up adding that to it, all the best, and yeah, keep the grandkids happy.